beasts, aren't they? Chuffed to bits. The smallest little thornback. No, I'm just concentrating on not leaving the rod over the side. And his eyes. He's got amazing eyes. Doggy in the boat. Golden mullet. There's a bit of weight to that, you know. And that's what we want, don't we? We don't want the same all the time. We want something different, a good old show. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm in the workshop, beavering away, and today I'm making rigs. So what are we up to today? Today I'm going to do a very plain, simple Wessex rig. And the best way I can describe that is it's a running ledger with a top hook, with a dropper. And you get a benefit. You get a bottom hook that will fish the bottom for flat species, flounder, plaice, rays if need be. And the top hook, the flapper aspect of it, will be fishing for midwater, you know, about up to about a metre off the bottom. So things like bass, whiting, pouting, and species like that. So what I class as swimming fish and flat fish. It covers both aspects. And what I have found is we've done loads of rigs makings on the channel, and one of the recent ones is a loop rig, which is a clip down rig and gives you the option to make a very long loop, as long as you want really, dictated by the weather and the wind, but it's not a full running ledger at the bottom. And for bite indication, for bottom feeding species, the direct route with a running ledger gives better bite indication. So enough jibber jabbering. I haven't even got an example one to go by. I've been fishing recently and I've got a rig in my mind, and the difference with today is I'm going to be making it as I do it, and then I'll fish it later, and then we can compare and make notes. And as always with the rig making on this channel, it's a development aspect, so if you've got any input, put it in the comments. I look forward to your feedback. Everyone has a variation. This is my version, if you like, and everyone's version is different. So it's cold in the workshop. I don't want to hang around here too long. It's a bit parky. You've got all my attention. You've got all the time in the world. Let's make a rig. So I will start off with the rig body. Now, this is a light rig. I'm making a light rig. If I was to go heavier than this, I'd probably switch to an up and over. But for this one, I don't think I'm ever going to be casting any more than 5 ounces. 3, 4, 5 ounces at a push. I can't see myself casting 5 ounces. So you go 1 ounce equals £10 of rig body plus £10 spare. So for 5 ounces, £60 rig body. 4 ounces 50, 3 ounces 40, and so on. And that's a fairly reasonable thing to consider. And this is really nice and flexible. It's called Ultra Flex. It's made by Asso. It's £60, and that's what I'm going to be using today. Asso Ultra Flex for the rig body. And I already have in my mind that this is going to be cut to 4 foot and end up approximately as a 3 foot rig body. Now then, I'm going to need swivels at either end on this, so I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. At the bottom, I like these. I know I've said it before on the channel, and I really do like these. These are stunning swivels, made by Gemini. I'm using all Gemini tackle on this rig today. £140, but look at the size of them. They are stunning. And they are stainless steel swivels, £140, size 4, and you get 20 in a pack. So I'm going to have one of those on the bottom, and the knot I use is, I call it a 3-tone grinner. You can use whatever knot you're comfortable with. Give yourself about 2 inches of tag end, holding the swivel trap between your fingers, 3 turns. And then through the eye, as if you were doing a blood knot, but then back up the spiral 3 turns. And then the tag end, draw it down gently, wet your knot, and I'm frantically looking for a weight. I tend to use a weight to grip this. You can have proper knot pullers. I just use a lead and then gently pull it down, and then watch the knot seat. Should look like a little beehive, nice and set, and we can cut off the tag end. Nice and short. We don't want anything that's going to catch weed and give a snagging point. So we've got a rig body with 140 pound Gemini swivel on the bottom. Now, to protect the running ledger aspect, we're going to need a bead, and for these are 4mm beads. We're going to need 2 4mm beads. Colour's irrelevant for this. This is a working bead. This isn't a attractant. So we're going to put a 4mm bead, and then I am using a Gemini power pulley with the little swivel built into the inlet. That goes on, and then another bead, and we run that all the way down to the bottom. That's our bottom components. So we've got the swivel, the bead, the pulley, bead, and up the main line. There we go. The top end components, I am using crimps today. Not a big fan of crimps, but this isn't a heavy species or a heavy use rig. So I'm using, again, all Gemini tackle for this one. 2 tiny little crimps. Feed on a crimp, and then 4mm bead, and then we're going to some tiny little snood swivels, because these are only 45 pound. We don't need those big 140s for this. These are tiny weeny little ones, and we'll show you the packet on those. Let's have a look. There we go. 45 pound snood swivels, and I'll show you one, but between the fingers you can see how small it is. It is weeny, it's tiny. So get that bad boy on. Get ourselves another bead, and I'll show you all the components all fed on. And then last but not least, another. He says as it's escaped me, I'm sure I got 2 of those out. Oh, there you go. Hiding on the bench. Tiny little thing. And another crimp. So before we recount those components, we'll just top it off with another 140, and then nothing's going to fall off, and everything's captive on the line. So this is the simplest version of this. This is a flapper version, for want of a better word. Same knot, 3 turns through the loop, and then 3 turns. You can use a blood knot, with clench, uni knot, anything that you're confident with. The knot that you're most confident with is the knot that's going to fish the best. If you want to learn a new knot, practice makes perfect. Practice, 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 until you can almost, well, you can practically do it without looking. So we've got captive components, and that rig body now has come out at 3.5 foot total. Nice casting length of rig. Nothing too long, nothing too awkward. You could shorten that down by 6 to 8 inches, I think you could probably get away with if you really wanted to, but I quite like the longer rig. So we have a look at what we've got captive on there. We've got a 140 swivel, we've got a bead, a Gemini pulley, a bead, a crimp, a bead, a snood swivel, 45 pounds, a bead and a crimp. And that is all of those aspects. I'm just going to hang it up. It's always easier to hang up. Well, I find it is anyway. It's this is the way I prefer to make my rigs, in the position they're going to end up in. And what I'm going to do is those top aspects, the bit with the snood swivel, the bead either side, and the crimps, I've got my crimping pliers. These are a set of Fox crimping pliers. See if that will focus. It's not happy with focusing on that, is it? So have a look. Fox crimping pliers, and they've got two different aspects to crimp with, two different sizes. I know from experience that the top hole for that is the perfect size for these crimps. So I'm just going to run those out, and about 3 inches down. It's not an exact science, this one. It's whatever your personal preference is. I'm just going to lightly crimp, not going to go crazy. Just have a quick look, just check, see if I'm happy with it. And without crimping it tight, so when I grip it in the crimps, just pull it away about 1.5 mil, just so that snood swivel can actually freely spin and it can manipulate and move itself around. And then our bottom components. So that is the body and the setup, because we're not clipping this one down. So now all we need now is our hook lengths. Now the top one I don't want particularly long, and I'm going to cut it at 16 inches. Cut it at 16 inches. Going to tie it on, wet the knot, snug it down, watch the knot form, happy with the shape and how it looks. Now this is where I'm going to make the bits that are specific to how I want this to fish. So I would like to use a piece of rig tubing, and I'm using, no surprises again, like I said earlier, it's all Gemini. This is Gemini silicone, and as a guess I think I want about 50 mil. So it is a very rough guess. I suppose I could get a ruler out and measure it. And I'm going to put that over the first part of the swivel. I still want the swivel to function, I still want it to swivel, but I want it to help kick this out away from the main body. And this is the first part in my mind that I wanted to make sure was on this rig as part of how I want to try it out. So as you can see, that just helps to get that hook snood away from the rig body. And there's a second aspect to this now that I'd like to use. I'm going to cut a very small piece of the silicone tubing, and by small I mean about 5 mil or so. And I'm going to put the hook snood through, thread it through, loop it round on itself and back in through the same way it went through to start with. In effect, this is going to make a stop knot. Pull it tight, it all cinches down, and you've now got a sliding stop knot. Just going to move that right up out the way, up against that, and I've still got my hook snood there. Next aspect for this, because I see that as the bit of the rig that is going to possibly winkle out maybe a bass, so we need some hooks. Following on from some recent fishing that I've been doing, I'm experimenting with smaller hooks. I'm not really a small species fisherman, but I'm keen to experiment and try out some of these smaller aspects, small baits, small hooks that can still catch bigger fish. And these are Kamasan B940 Aberdeen. They're like fine wire hooks, chemically etched needle point, size 2. And I'm interested in two aspects for this: how it presents worm when I'm fishing with ragworm baits, because I'm a bit heavy-handed with that kind of stuff, you know. I'm used to putting on like whole squid and whole mackerel fillets and you know, just big chunky stuff, and I'm sort of coming round to a variation in my fishing where I'm using fine wire hooks, which is unusual for me. Before I put the hook on, and this is the bit, I want this bait, when it's in the water, I want the bait to be neutrally buoyant. I want it to be counter buoyant with 10mm white beads, floating beads. So I'm going to put 3 10mm white beads on. And this will have the effect of weighting this down and making this sit alongside the rig body. But when it's been cast and it's out in the water, it will actually float up and away. And then we attach our hook. It might be a little bit more obvious now why I attached the neoprene stop knot. And we'll show it in a minute. 2, 3. Could have made life easier. It could have made life a little bit easier and attached the hook to the snood and then to the snood swivel. I didn't think that far ahead, did I? Like I say, I've got something specific in my mind that I'm trying to replicate and initiate, and I wanted to come straight out in the workshop and make it, because I was sat there thinking about it, sort of recounting the fishing that I've done over the last couple of days. And this is the rig that I have in mind. So when I slide that stop knot down, that piece of 5mm neoprene, it was neoprene, wasn't it? Don't want to give you misinformation. Silicon tubing, sorry. Depending on how far up I feed the worm, depends on where I sit that stop knot. So those beads will in effect go up against the worm, and I can dress it and adjust it, and that will float neutrally buoyant with the bait on it. That's the upper snood. The lower snood, I'm thinking a little bit longer. I'm thinking 24 inches, 2 feet. Going to attach it to the swivel at the bottom. And just tie this hook length, 1, 2, 3. It's strange because when it's this quiet, the neighbours have got a pond, and when it's in the evening like this and it's this quiet, you can actually hear the pump running. You can hear the trickle of water. All that does is make you want to go to the loo. Just seat that down, make sure it's now there's a variation on this piece that I'm going to do as well, because I want this specifically for something, and we're going to tailor it. So we're going to go for another 5mm piece of tubing. To act as a stop knot. So we feed the line through the tube, round and back in on itself, effectively making that stop knot again. Draw it down, pinch it together and slide it out the way. Then the next thing we're going to do is a combination of black and green beads. So the first bead I'm going to put on is a black bead. When I can find the little hole. Straight after that bead I'm looking, because I've put it here, I'm going to put a silver blade. And I'll give you a better look in a minute. A silver blade. And then we're going to alternate black and green beads. So the next one I'm going to put on is a green. Can't get the packet open. Fingers have got cold. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you're probably wondering why I haven't got the log burner on. It's because my garage again, my workshop is carnage at the moment. I've got stuff everywhere from the last couple of sessions where I've fished, and I'm in recovery mode. I've been cleaning and sorting out my kit, harvesting rigs, taking components off, doing bits and pieces. If you've seen other parts of the channel, you know what I'm talking about. If you're new to the channel, You're welcome to have a look at the back catalogue of films. I think at last count there was 115, 116 films, I think, something like that. Might be something of interest to you. So I'm just alternating these beads, and then we'll have a good long look at it, and we can get some of your views and see what you think. See if you think it's going to fish well, or whether I'm wasting my time. I've got a funny feeling this is going to do the business. Do what I need it to do. It's going to be a soft casting rig. It's not going to be a distance rig. It's not clipped down in any way. It's full flapper rig. But I want a soft casting rig so that I can leave long tails on ragworm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. One more green bead, and then we'll put a hook on it. We'll put a hook on it, and then we'll be able to talk you through it and show you all the aspects of it. So we'll put another size 2 hook, which is possibly a little bit big. I know some people like to use smaller, but I don't. I'm trying to find that balance where I don't deep hook a flounder. They can be quite difficult to unhook. I do use the fishhouse method of unhooking through the gills very carefully with dogleg forceps, specifically for that job. Temperature's just suddenly plummeted. It's been so mild recently, and now all of a sudden I think it's 3 degrees outside, which pretty much means it's 3 degrees in there, and 3 degrees is colder than my fridge. I think my fridge is set at 4 or 5. Just set that knot. So it's like standing in your fridge. I've said it many times before, but I use Solingen nail clippers. They're not fishing clippers, they're nail clippers. Stay very sharp. They don't deteriorate. Right, and we will slide that stop knot down, which is totally adjustable depending on how we dress our ragworm bait. So let's have a look. We have got on the bottom, that's what we're looking at. We've got a size 2 Kamasan B940 hook. We've got a series of beads and a blade spinner, and a sliding silicone stop knot, so we can adjust and move them further away depending on how much bait we put on, or further down so it's dressed nicely down. That is the piece that will fish below the weight. Then we've got our 140 power swivel, we've got a Gemini pulley swivel between beads, which has got a swivel hanging off. We need to talk about that bit because you can't attach a weight to that yet. Further up the rig, we've got a snood that comes off, and we've put 3 10mm floating beads with another Kamasan B940 and a sliding stop knot, and then terminated at the end. So in effect, we've got a snood that will fish upper. We've got somewhere to attach our weight as a running ledger, and then below a swivel and below the weight, we've got another hook length. We have a choice of connectors for what I'm about to do and what we're about to look at now. We can either use breakaway fast link clips, they will do the job perfectly, or we can use Gemini Genie connectors. And for this exercise I'm going to keep this entire rig Gemini because I like it, because I want to. Genie connector, it looks a little bit like a paper clip, not quite a paper clip, but it's got a double connection, and we can put that between the pulley swivel and the weight. And for the purpose of this, I'm using a 3-ounce breakaway flat lead because I think that is the perfect weight for it. And I wanted that distance. I wanted that flexibility and that distance. And well, what's the purpose of that? Is it something that's going to tangle? I don't think so. We could put some rig tubing on there. I don't think it's necessary. But what I would like that to do is when that lays on the bottom and I draw it across, I want to keep all of that out of the way. And I want that flexibility. I do not think that is going to tangle. So we got all of that bejazzle, We've got a full running ledger where the sliding components are protected from the knots by beads, and further up the rig we've got a neutrally buoyant with floating beads snood. So that should waft around and do its thing. White beads like that are a good attractant for bass. And there it is. So that is this version of a Wessex rig. Non-clipped, flapper. I like it. I'm going to try it. It's going to cast like a big old flop, but I'm using soft rods. And I want it to cast soft. I don't want to lose all the tails when I'm using like bunches of wriggling worm. There we go. That's what I'm going to use. You're going to have a view on this. You're going to look at it and go, I wouldn't use that. That rig body's too long. That snood's not right. I wouldn't bother with the rig tubing. I'd use a boom. I wouldn't use the white beads. I wouldn't use the bejazzle or the blade. I want to hear it. I want to hear it all. Use the comments section, please. Give us a shout. Let's develop this rig. I know I'm going to do another version of this because I'm going to do a clip down version of this. But that's for another day. This is the flop version. This is the one that's just going to get flopped out there. There we go. So, all that leaves for me to say now is tight lines, happy fishing. I hope to spend some time with you again sometime soon. From me, from this, for now, it's goodbye. Tight lines and happy fishing. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.